Even as she brooded over the vision, she knew that only time would reveal his destiny. For now, and for many years to come, he would simply be her precious child, whom she loved tenderly and with all her heart. John Wilkes was Mary Ann's 9th child, the 5th of those who yet lived. The eldest, Junius Brutus Booth, Jr., had left the farm a few months after John Wilkes's birth, much to the chagrin of his parents. For years, Richard had tried valiantly to teach his grandson Greek and Latin so that he might be trained as a doctor or lawyer, but despite great efforts to discourage him, June, as they all called him, was determined to become an actor. He had made his debut a few years before while chaperoning his father on tour, playing Trestle to Junius's Richard III in Pittsburgh when the regular player fell ill. His performance had been in every way underwhelming. June would make a better merchant than an actor, Junius had written to Mary Ann afterward, sounding both relieved and disappointed. June evidently had a better opinion of his own talent, for shortly before his 18th birthday, he ran off to join a theater company in Philadelphia. Handsome, athletic, and bearing the famous Booth name, he won several minor roles and performed them competently, though without brilliance. His swordplay was widely admired, and his fellow players liked him, but while they offered him warm friendship, they damned him with faint praise. June was fairly good, mutual friends told Junius diplomatically, slow of speech, but competent to the limit of his abilities. Junius blustered and threatened, but his namesake would not be persuaded to give up his folly and come home. Mary Ann, too, had misgivings, but what had Junius expected? The children idolized their dramatic, exciting, unpredictable father. They had absorbed Shakespeare at his knee, and they recited verses and soliloquies as other children told riddles. Their home was a treasure vault of scripts, costumes, props, theater posters, and newspaper clippings of rave reviews. In secret, they had watched their father on stage from the wings, awestruck, whenever Mary Ann had been obliged to bring them along to the theater to collect Junius's salary before he could drink it away. It would have been more astonishing had June not resolved to become an actor, although privately his parents agreed that it seemed unlikely he would ever become a great one. There was no danger of their second child and eldest daughter, Rosalie, following her father and brother onto the stage. Quiet and gentle, Rosalie was so reserved that she rarely spoke, and then only in whispers. She was Mary Ann's silent, helpful shadow as she went about her chores on the farm, tending the garden, watching over the younger children. Though Mary Ann never spoke of it to Junius, she suspected that Rosalie had become profoundly withdrawn as a protective measure after suffering the loss of 4 younger siblings to terrible illnesses. Mary Ann understood her melancholia all too well. Yet even after suffering such unspeakable losses, Mary Ann's broken heart had remained strong enough to welcome another child into the family. Junius had been on tour in mid-November 1833 when she had gone into labor on a night the heavens had put on a spectacular display of shooting stars. One had exploded with an ear-splitting crack in the sky above Baltimore, lighting up the clouds like dawn and searing the sky with a trailing stream of fire. Bright ribbons of light still illuminated the darkness when Mary Ann's son was born, safely, in perfect health, but with a transparent membrane swathed around his face. Shakespeare had referred to the marvel as Fortune's star, Mary Ann remembered, and Anne Hall and the other servants had declared that it meant that the boy was destined for greatness. Mary Ann had carefully preserved the caul, certain that the heavenly fireworks affirmed that her baby, unusually quiet and alert, his features resembling his father's, was destined for a special fate. From Philadelphia, Junius had chimed in his agreement, adding that he wanted the boy to be named after his 2 best and most loyal friends, the actors Edwin Forrest and Thomas Flynn, and so the newborn was called Edwin Thomas. A sister had followed almost exactly 2 years later, and from New York, Junius wrote, "Call the little one Asia, in remembrance of that country where God first walked with man." Little Asia Sidney grew into a lovely